Now, if you're keeping track, I went like 2 years with no co-stars, no like network credits really. And then I go about 2 months and I got this itty bitty thing on Oxygen, this significant thing on MTV, and this other significant thing on CBS. Hey, so you would like to book your first network television credit, your first streaming credit, your first Netflix, your first Disney, CBS, NBC, ABC, all of that, right? Let me share my story on how I booked my first network credits, and hopefully there will be some takeaways for you. I'll try to highlight the takeaways as we go along. So let me take you back. I moved to New York City. It's 2011. I'm like 1 year out of college. I've been working in theater for the most part, and I've done indie theater for like a year or so, and I start to realize that theater isn't the route I want to go because it won't give me the lifestyle that I want. So then I start trying to target TV in like 2012-ish, and I immediately realize I'm unprepared because I don't have a reel, I don't have any footage, and I am fighting just to get seen for an audition. So I'm trying to get all the indie things I see on Actors Access to build up a reel, and I start making a way for myself in these indie web series, which were really big at the time, that were serving underrepresented groups. So the first web series I found was a black gay web series called Finding Me. It may still even be running, but I had a recurring part on that. And what just amazed me about it is that these guys would get footage done. Like my sister had just booked a recurring role on that show, and within like 2 months, like the footage came out. And I think if you've done a few indie projects now, you know you can do some of these projects and the footage will never get done, the project will never get finished. These guys were finishing that project, so I hopped on that. I did that, and then I started stringing things together. I got another web series called Young and Reckless, which is like about black college students in kind of urban city, New York City environment. So it's a lot of partying, a lot of sex, health, relationships. I worked on that project for a while, build up some more reel credits, and then I'm starting to feel myself, right? So then I'm like, I can make a web series because I got inspired by the other people making their web series, and I made my own web series called The Verge. And I got a couple of great scenes that I was really proud of from that. Now I have a reel, right? Now I have some footage. Along the way, I've gotten my first agent, my first manager through workshops at 101 and stuff. And I've had a huge breakthrough where while I was doing a play, I submitted to get into the ABC Diversity Showcase. And the casting director really took a liking to me, Marcy Phillips, and she really championed me and fought for me. And I got that breakthrough, and I got into that in 2013. So that's like the 2 years window, right? So now my ordinary world is I have this reel, but I'm like, I can't seem to break through. Like I can't seem to get auditions for NBC, CBS, and I just want to break through and get my first credit that says like I belong, that I deserve to be here. If you can relate to like not being able to get that breakthrough and trying, and then seeking for a guide, seeking for a mentor, let me know in the comments below. But that's where I was. I had been trying to figure it out for a while, and I eventually joined this thing called Actors Connection, which is another kind of workshop place, and there was this talk coming by this woman named Dallas Travers. In Dallas, if you haven't met Dallas Travers, Dallas is like, she's like the guide, the mentor, the Gandalf of my story, but she's also like hidden in this, like, you wouldn't know it to look at her. She kind of feels like you're talking to the kindergarten teacher you didn't know you needed, but she's there for your inner child, and she's there to empower your adult to advocate for your inner child, your inner artist, and that is what she did for me. So I go to Actors Connection, and she's having this talk, and it's like a 30-minute talk, 45-minute talk, and she's sharing her philosophy, her business plan. And I get there, and I'm meeting her energy for the first time, and I'm like, man, she's so optimistic and so positive and so patient. And I'd been to some of these things before where the energy can feel very schemy, very like shady, like they're just trying to trade money and prey on actors who haven't figured it out yet. But like everything out of this woman was light. And I was just like, okay, all right. And I'm starting to get into it, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna do it. And she had this program, Actors Business Breakthrough. It's 8 weeks long. I was like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. She's helped other people get their breakthrough, why not me? And then we get to the end, and she drops the price, and my heart drops right along with it, y'all. And the price was $800 at the time, which is about $1,065 in 2024. And I couldn't figure out how I was gonna make that work. I didn't have good credit at the time because I had learned never to use credit cards. And while that was like good at keeping me from being prey to debt when I was in college and stuff, it made it so that it was a little bit harder for me to be able to front money to invest in things. I wish I could say I just said yes, you know, like I'm gonna do it anyway. But I didn't. I just kind of sat there and watched other people kind of bring up their fears around the money and their wants to do it. And I kind of expected her to pressure people into buying it, you know, like, if you don't invest in this, how serious are you about your business? But she didn't do that. She would it was kind of an opportunity to see how she would coach, because she had nothing but empathy and understanding. And at no point did she like force anybody to sign up for it or guilt anybody to sign up for it. She really was trying to empower people to find their way, to see if it was right for them, and she was really truly okay if it wasn't right for them. That was interesting to me. I was like, oh, there's no like leverage being pushed on me. But it still wasn't enough for me. So I got up and I go to the elevator, and I'm walking to the elevator, and I get to the elevator and I just freeze, like just boom, right there. And I'm like, I've been praying for this breakthrough. I've been praying for somebody to show me how to break through. And what if God touched my breakthrough inside this amazing spiritual leader, kindergarten teacher person, right? So I'm like, can I do it? Like, if I had to make this money work, can I do it? I was like, yes. Do I believe on a spiritual, like, energetic level that this person can help me get to the next level? I was like, yes. I was like, okay. That's all I need to know. And then I went back in and I signed up. And this is kind of one of the biggest changing points of the whole story for me, is I decided to stop trying to figure it all out by myself. I decided to stop being a lone wolf and start getting mentorship. And then what I didn't know I was signing up for comes in the next piece. Once I cross that threshold and I'm in the class, right, I realize I'm there with a bunch of other people in my similar situation, right? We're all setting a breakthrough goal. Everyone's breakthrough goal is different. My breakthrough goal was to book like my first co-star on a major network. I wanted like network approval as an actor. That was my breakthrough goal, right? And I was gonna work on that for the 8 weeks throughout the process. But what I didn't know I was also gonna get is I ended up with this accountability partner named Alexandra Lill. And she was so smart and so poised. I have never met this woman. She lived in LA, I lived in New York City, and I loved this woman because she just showed up for me and I just showed up for her, and we were just about the business. And every morning we would have an accountability call that lasted like 5-ish minutes. That was what was so great about it. It was so efficient. So that was the first thing I realized, was like, I can't do it alone. And whoa, what a power it was to have an accountability partner who was as equally invested as I was in success. The second thing I learned was that you really had to develop laser focus, is what Dallas called it at the time. And I laser focused all of her coaching, all of her worksheets, all of her ideas around booking my first network co-star. And the structure is something that I was not anticipating, because there was like a group forum where you could ask questions of each other, and that gave me that sense of community, that sense of like, we're all in this together. We're all in this. And then we had weekly Zoom calls with Dallas where you would hear her coach people through things that were similar to you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing. I'm going through the same thing. And I just had such an optimism hearing other people have breakthroughs, having myself like work through it, cheering on Alexandra, showing up for other people. And I think sometimes we show up more for other people than we do just by ourselves. So I've got the allies, I've got the guide, right? And then here come the tests. Here come the obstacles. And I had to do a lot of things I had never done before. We were sending out snail mail. And you might think, like, if you're new, if you're like 20 something and you think people were sending out snail mail 10 years ago, we weren't. People were very solidly on email, but she invited us to do snail mail partially because not a lot of people were doing it. And it was a way to make a tangible physical touch with your buyers, the casting directors. And if you are familiar with business, you need, I think it's like 6 to 7 touches to really establish a relationship. So we were finding ways to establish a relationship and make touches with people whom we didn't have their emails. So we would send out letters. We would send out this cool thing called a one sheet. It was basically designed to look like a magazine, and it had kind of you on the cover and highlights about you that were designed to attract the casting and stuff, to understand how to cast you, what to call you in for. And you know, when I look at this one sheet, I go like, man, there's something so like cheesy about it, but also like my heart gets so big when I see like this younger version of myself advocating for himself in such a big way. And I think like if I was a casting director right now and some like 20 something or anybody like was mailing me these one sheets and I saw it, I'd be like, okay, like maybe he's ready, maybe he's not. But when we do the next round of co-stars and we need black guys, we need kids, like black kids in their 20s or whatever, call this kid in, because he's fighting for it. He's standing for it. He's showing enthusiasm. He's going the extra mile, and we can give him an audition. You know what I mean? We can give him a chance. She's got this whole process, this whole structure, and we're working on the beliefs and the stories we tell ourselves that stop us along the way. Things about not wanting to take up space, not wanting to bother people. Yo, the phone calls were so hard. I can't believe I made phone calls, but I made phone calls with her coaching, like advocating myself to casting. I called casting offices. Everybody tells you not to do that. I did that. One of the big exercises, I'll say, like the biggest challenge, but by this point I've built up momentum. She saves it for like week 7 or so at the time. Is you do an outreach to people that you believe are like a little far ahead of you, but that you'd like to network with. You send them letters. I sent letters to Lena Dunham. I sent a letter to Tyler Perry, to Shondaland, and to Chadwick Boseman. Hadn't been cast as Black Panther yet. He just did Get Up, the James Brown movie. So I was reaching out to him because he was in the ABC Showcase, and I was telling these people like what I admired about them, how I resonated with their work, and what I felt like I could contribute to them based off like my understanding of what they were up to. So with like Lena Dunham, she was a very like independent filmmaker. She was making her own shows, and I really admired that. Like she did that, Vin Diesel did that. That's part of what inspired me to do The Verge, was people making their own shows. Shondaland, she had one of the first shows that made me believe I could be a series regular with Grey's Anatomy. My dad's a doctor, so seeing all these black doctors made me go like, I could be on the show, like, and I'm that type, I can do that. And then you do follow-ups, y'all. So it's not just like you send one letter, you like forget about it. Then you follow up via email like twice. And I even called to follow up with Chadwick Boseman's agencies and managers. And I remember exactly where I was in that call. I might even have a shot of the alleyway I was in, because I shot a scene in The Verge in this alleyway. In that alleyway, I made a phone call to Chadwick Boseman's team. And I was like, hey, it's Mark St. Cyr calling for Chadwick Boseman. And that's it. You just pause. And they're like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I sent Mark St. Cyr, can you remind us who they are? And you go, yeah. I reached out to Chadwick. I'm a member of the ABC Showcase, just like he was. I'm an actor, and I would love to reach out and see if he's available to get coffee or meet with me. I'd love to see if I could learn from him and see how I could contribute to his success. You know, something of that nature is what I would say. And they're like, all right, well, he's in Australia right now, but we'll pass it. I was like, if you could pass this message along, I'd appreciate it. So I did that like 3 times, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna let it go. But hold on to that, because we'll come back to it. You just darken this. You don't realize the power that's gonna come through you advocating for yourself, you planting seeds, and you don't realize like God's paying attention, the Spirit is paying attention. That's like a B story. We'll come back to it. The 8 weeks completes. It finishes on like June 16th is when it finishes. And I didn't get the co-star. You know, like part of me was disappointed for sure. But there's this new person in me that I didn't know I was gonna meet that's so excited. I suddenly just had this like faith that everything I was doing was gonna pay off if I just kept the energy going. So I do keep the energy going. July 1st, I get this audition called One Bad Choice on MTV, and it was a juicy co-star. I had like multiple scenes. I go into that audition, I kill it. My confidence is on fire. Like a week passes, I'm celebrating July 4th. I move apartments in this time because my best friend who was playing my roommate on The Verge that I made has moved to New York City, and he invited me to live with him. So I'm like moving. I feel like I've built all this momentum. Things are happening. I'm getting opportunities, but like I haven't booked the co-star yet. And I just kind of forget about it. And then July 10th comes around and I get this email. And I was so over the moon. I was like, I did it. Like I booked this co-star, and it's like incredible. And it paid, look how much it paid, y'all. It paid pretty much the same number I had to invest for the 8-week program, $880. At the same time, I get offered a small little co-star on this show on Oxygen. It was like another little baby co-star in the same like month. And I'm like, yes, freaking did it, right? But like now, it's debatable. Like MTV, that was the show on One Bad Choice was on MTV. Like, was that like a major network? I don't know, right? And I really wanted the goal to feel like, boom, we did it, right? So I keep the energy going. And in comes this audition for a show called Person of Interest. It was to play an airport cop. And I wore like a blue Henley because I wanted to convey like blue for cop. And it had been at one of the offices I'd been targeting throughout those 8 weeks. Christie Street Casting. I'd been sending the postcards and the one sheet and whatnot. And I get there, and y'all, I wish I could tell you I nailed this audition. I don't know what they saw in me. I think it was Rebecca Dealey, the casting associate, who was fighting for me. I get in the room, but every take she'd be like, okay, you're doing too much, so relax. You don't have to do so much. I was like, okay, let me do it again. She's like, okay, now like change your body's moving too much. Okay, let me do it again. She's like, okay, don't move your eyebrows. Okay, let me do it again. I think we did it like 5 or 6 times, and I'm like swearing like I have ruined this audition, right? Like I am not going forward. They cannot trust me on this set. I have messed it up, right? And let me see what happens if I close this. Is that too much? That's better. It was getting too much. All right, let's open it back up. All right, so but still there's this part of me that's like, Mark, how cool is it you got called in? Like I've learned to celebrate the win, and I've learned that like that was a win to get called in, and she must have seen something in me to want to give me 4 or 5 directions. That means like I must be getting close. That means she sees I could be the person, right? But at the same time, I'm like, we need to sign up for an on-camera class because like we learned so much in that audition about how much lack of control we have over our body and our face and our voice and how to tell the story without stealing focus and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, I just go about my business of like trying to find a new class. But I do that audition and I forget about it. And like another week or so goes by, which is usually kind of long in co-star TV land. And so I'm like, all right, I didn't get that one. I couldn't take the notes. But then I get this email on like September 5th. And I start screaming in my kitchen. I am just like, I could not believe it. I booked it.
Door's locked.
Okay, I gotta call it in.
Whoa. Could do that, son, but you might just blow my case.
What case?
Homicide.
All right.
Now, if you're keeping track, I went like 2 years with no co-stars, no like network credits really. And then I go about 2 months and I got this itty bitty thing on Oxygen, this significant thing on MTV, and this other significant thing on CBS. And they all happen after that 8-week mark. So one of the lessons I'm learning is there's a lag time between the work you're doing in here and the reception you get out there. It's kind of like you plant seeds in the fall or whatever, and then they go to sleep in the winter. You don't see them till the spring and the summer. And to tie up the B story here with Chadwick Boseman, a couple of years passed, right, for the Chadwick Boseman thing. So if you're still here for this, this will be a treat for you. I get an email that is just like asking for my availability, just out of nowhere. Like, hey, is Mark available on these dates? Is he a New York local hire? And I'm like, what is this? Because I didn't audition for anything. Usually you only get that email when you've auditioned for something and they're checking your dates, right? But I just get that email without auditioning. Then I find out it's for this feature film called Marshall that Chadwick Boseman is starring in as Thurgood Marshall, and they want to see me for the role of Langston Hughes' boyfriend. And they don't just want to see me; they want me to just have a meeting with the director. There's no audition. I have never had just a meeting with the director for somebody I hadn't known, and lead it to like a thing that it wasn't like a short film or something. This was like a studio feature film, and I go in and I realize I get to the casting director and I see this guy named John Ort, who used to be a casting director at ABC with Marcy Phillips. Whenever I was doing the showcase, it was Marcy Phillips and John Ort were really like the leaders. And I was like, John has been advocating for me over here. Like, again, you cannot do it alone. Okay, so I get another ally. I didn't know, like I knew John was an ally, but like, whoa. He's like, he just got me a meeting. So I meet Reginald. We are like geeking out about Thurgood Marshall and the Harlem Renaissance, and we're talking about Chadwick Boseman because he just had been announced that he was going to be the Black Panther. We were just geeking out and having a great time. Didn't even really talk too much about it, just a little bit about the role in the show. And then like a week or so later, I get an email and it's like, here's the offer. So I didn't even, now I can't prove to you that by sending out a letter to Chadwick Boseman's team and following up 2 more times professionally, looking to collaborate, looking to get mentorship, I can't prove to you that correlated with this event. But it's moments like this that make you believe in God. I mean, like, I end up on set in the trailer, and Chad was getting his hair done like 6 feet from me, and I'm there getting like my hair done, getting ready to go on set with Chadwick, and I'm acting across at the same table with Chadwick Boseman, like less than 3 years from when I send those letters.
Langston, he swore on his mother's life that he wouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon.
My mother's name was never mentioned.
Well, this case is all anybody in the city is talking about.
And this is why I say you can't always see how the energy you're putting out is going to come back to you. Like that fall, winter, spring cycle I talked about was much longer than I knew for that particular act, but it was paying off. So you have to have faith that the things you're doing can pay off, and you never know who's paying attention. You never know who's paying attention. And how they can reward you for advocating for yourself and standing in your own power. I hope the story was really helpful. I hope maybe it inspired you. If you're feeling like you need guidance along the way in terms of your acting technique or your acting career, and you think I could be someone who could help you, feel free to reach out to me. I have an email. I think it's going to be thefulfilledactor@gmail.com. You could also reach out to me and DM me on Instagram and just say like, hey, I watched this video. I really want to reach out and I wanted to see about working together. That's all for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.